Hi, I'm Pete May, president of GreenBiz Group. Delighted to be here today at VERGE with a longtime friend and fellow Oaklander, Danny Kennedy, the managing director of the California Clean Energy Fund, and somebody that we've known and worked with over the years. Danny's great. I see him at industry events, and then also since he's run Oakland organizations, I see him on the streets of Oakland. Danny, I think it was like November 15th, I was crossing 14th and Broadway, I ran into you, and you told me about the state of the world then, which was pretty interesting. I think we were all about that time. Pretty interesting moment. Fast forward, a lot's happened, and you're just off a plane from China, so tell me what's going on in the world.
Well, what's going on in the world, you all know as well as I do what's going on here in America. But I think, the good news is, despite all that stuff in DC, we are persisting with the energy transition that was already afoot before Donald Trump was elected and won't be reversed. I think the leadership for it has kind of shifted across the Pacific, to be blunt. The federal government of the United States has sort of abdicated responsibility and said they don't want to be part of Paris and so on. Meanwhile, the Chinese have sort of jumped to the opportunity to lead the world. And, they're doing it, to give them credit. And, by which I mean they are building, for example, 11 gigawatts of solar capacity in the month of July.
Wow.
This was the month of July, like a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
They built 11 gigawatts. We built 16 gigawatts last year, I think, in the United States in a year, and we were pretty big on ourselves for that.
Yeah.
They're doing those kinds of double-digit gigawatt numbers in a month these days, and they intend to keep going.
Wow.
And just, throwing in for good measure, the end of the internal combustion engine. They're basically looking at their planning process. They're looking at the fact that the 13th five-year plan is now 107% of what they expect it to be in terms of clean energy. Yeah. They're downsizing their coal commitments and upscaling their wind and solar, and they are electrifying their vehicle fleet. And it's palpable on the streets of Shanghai now. It used to be that you go there and there'd be all these two-stroke motors. Now everything's electric. All the mopeds and motorcycles and skateboards and whatever. And that's going to be all the cars and all the charging, and they're building all that infrastructure now. And they're putting a date certain on the internal combustion engine. Yeah. So, they're driving, we're participating. California's a big part of it, but we better get real if we want to keep on the front of this incredible transition.
So what can let's take California, if not the United States, what can we learn and apply from what China is doing?
Look, they can learn and apply from what we're doing, really, and they are. One of the reasons I was there was to take part in a week-long conference on mass entrepreneurship and innovation, and it was in Huangpu district of Shanghai, which is basically what they're going to make into a Silicon Valley. It has 100 incubators in it. There are campuses and R&D. It's around Fudan University, which is one of the preeminent universities. So it looks and feels and smells a lot like the Bay Area. And we need to lean in and do what we do, which is innovation and technology R&D and commercialization and productization and build great companies. The good news is California continues to do that. I'm proud to say that our little fund is a part of that.
Yeah, tell me, so this is tell folks what is Calseed and what is it trying to accomplish?
The main program now at the California Clean Energy Fund, which I run, is a fund called Calseed, Sustainable Energy Entrepreneur Development Initiative. And it's actually money we get from the California Energy Commission, so it's rate-based money. And we redistribute that to the next 100 cool companies coming up in California in the clean energy space. Wow. Great job to have.
Yeah.
So we're out there, pounding the pavement, beating the bushes to find the next 100 startups that are going to revolutionize the VERGE conversation and our electricity and mobility sectors in years to come. Yeah. These startups have to have benefits to the California ratepayer, meaning clean up the air, slow down climate change, or reduce rates, and preferably all three. We find them all the time. There are great entrepreneurs in California, and we're very happy to announce that we have already funded 8 this year since we announced the fund in January, and just last week we announced the next 20 investees. So we're here at VERGE in part to announce the 20 on Facebook Live, but we get the privilege of finding these people, and the fact is that California continues to generate fantastic ideas and innovations which will push towards the 100% renewable and electrification of everything that we know is the future.
Yeah, so big companies are doing it. You've talked about the entrepreneurial piece. The other piece that we're going to talk about a lot here at Verge is social inclusion. So the people that don't normally maybe have been bystanders in the clean economy. I know that's a passionate point for you. Talk a little bit in California what you're trying to do to create that third part of the equation.
Well, Pete, I'm really glad you're taking that seriously here in Verge, and I think it's critical because as we go from sort of 10 and 20 and 30% of the electricity mix and we build this big industry, we have to ensure that all boats rise on this tide. And to date, to be real, we haven't done so well with that. If you look at the complexion and the diversity of the solar industry, which has been successful over the last decade, the emerging storage industry, the smart grid technologies, they're dominated by white people of privilege. And the entrepreneur's story is often the same. There's sort of this nepotism on Sandhill Road with Stanford, and you know the story. VC goes to white guys, 96% of it. Even though the fastest growing businesses in America are African American women-led businesses. But they got 0.2% of venture capital in 2016. So we have to change that as we continue to drive the innovation of the clean energy economy forward. Good news is, again, California's talking about this, like here, we're thinking about this, and we're even funding it. So for our purposes, Seed is bound by our contract with the state as we manage this money in this investment fund. Of the next 100 companies we fund, we have to make sure that more than 40% of them are from disadvantaged area communities. And already we have a majority of our companies being women or minority led. We're also looking for veterans. We've got a veteran hackathon to try to get the veteran community involved, not just in working in clean energy. Like, it's one thing to lump modules up ladders. It's another thing to own the business, start the business, sit in the C-suite, and benefit from the wealth building that is going to happen as this clean economy rises. So, we need to grapple with that. We need to make it different to the tech bros, and ensure that we do better in terms of diversity and women and minorities. But the good news is we're having an intentional conversation and trying to make sure we do.
Wow, well that's great, and thanks for showing all pieces of the equation there. Great to be working with you as always, and see you on the streets of Oakland.